The swing creaked in the wind. Just one, rusted, paint-chipped, sagging from an oak too old to still be alive. It shouldn't have moved, not with the air this still. Deputy Eli Mercer stood back, sweat crawling down his neck despite the cold. His K-9 Rook refused to budge. For hours, he'd sat planted in the dirt like a statue, locked onto that swing like something was wrong with it, beneath it. And when Eli finally walked around the base and looked under, he knew this wasn't just another missing kid case. This was a reckoning. Eli hadn't slept in 31 hours. He leaned against the hood of the cruiser, his eyes fixed on Rook, who hadn't moved from the clearing since they arrived at dawn. The sun was high now, late morning, and the heat was crawling in despite the thick trees hemming them in from all sides. Cicadas buzzed. Somewhere down the hill, the creek cracked over stones. But here it was too still. "Rook!" Eli called again, voice low but firm. The shepherd didn't flinch. He just kept staring, rigid, ears back, breathing shallow, at the old swing, and whatever the hell was under it. The property had belonged to Jacob Seiler. 49, widowed, electrician, mostly kept to himself. Nobody had seen him in 6 days. Normally, that wouldn't raise alarms in Cold Ridge Hollow. People disappeared to fish, hunt, or dry out. But a neighbor saw something, light on in the attic at 3 in the morning. Then off, then nothing. When they sent Deputy Cam over for a welfare check, he found the house empty, dusty. Food rotting in the sink. Bedroom door open. Phone left charging on the floor. No Seiler. No note. Just gone. That was 3 days ago. Now they had Rook parked in the backyard like something inside him had snapped loose. Eli sighed and shoved off the hood, walking slowly toward his dog. "You're not going to like it if I have to lift you." He crouched beside Rook. The dog didn't look away, just gave a low huff through his nose. His body trembled, not fear, restraint. Eli followed his gaze to the swing. It was a sad thing, with seat, knotted rope, held to a bowed limb by rusted hooks. Looked like it hadn't moved in years. But it was moving now, slowly, back and forth. And then, Rook let out a low, guttural sound. Not a bark, not quite a growl. A warning. Eli stood fast. "All right," he muttered, reaching for the radio clipped to his vest. "Dispatch! This is Deputy Mercer at the Seiler residence. Rook's alerting. Gonna do a ground search around the tree. Might want to prep search and rescue just in case." "Copy that," came Lena's voice, all static and drawl. "Keep me updated, Han." Eli unhooked the small shovel from his gear bag. He'd learned over the years that when Rook refused to move, it usually meant something was buried. He circled around the swing. The grass beneath it was patchy, dead. Something had disturbed the earth. Not recently, maybe a week back. Just enough to let the soil settle again. He pressed the shovel in. Dirt gave easier than it should. The smell came first. Sweet, metallic, familiar in a way that never stopped making his gut twist. He dug faster. Then he saw it. Plastic sheeting. Black. Knotted. Covered in a thin film of dirt and rot. Flies lifted from the folds. He grabbed gloves, yanked the knot loose, and pulled back the plastic. What lay beneath it turned the case sideways. It wasn't Jacob Seiler. It wasn't even recent. It was a girl. The body was skeletal in places. Tattered dress, still clinging to her. Blonde hair matted into the dirt. A faded bracelet dangling from a tiny wrist. The kind kids made at summer camps. Eli could see 3 plastic beads. A red heart, a white L, and a cracked purple star. Rook whined softly and backed away. Eli stepped back too, stomach knotting. This was no 6-day-old corpse. The girl had been here for years. That's when his memory clicked. Summer of 2002. Lisa Treadwell. She was 9. Lived 2 blocks from here. Disappeared from her backyard while her mom was folding laundry. No leads. No witnesses. No suspects. Eli had been a rookie. Just 2 months in. He remembered handing out flyers, interviewing terrified parents, standing in ditches and brush fields in the rain. And now, 2 decades later, she'd been here. All along, less than a mile from where she vanished, buried under Jacob Seiler's swing. By sunset, the backyard looked like a war zone. Crime scene tape, searchlights, Soko trucks, neighbors watching from behind fences, news vans parked halfway down the gravel road, already sniffing rumors. Eli stood in the shadow of the oak tree, arms crossed, exhaustion crawling through his bones like ivy. Sheriff Calder walked over, gray-bearded, barrel-chested, voice always too calm. "You sure it's her?" he asked. "Bracelet matches. Bone size, clothes, hair. Has to be Lisa." Calder nodded once, then glanced toward the house. "We pull Seiler's old employment records. He did electrical work on the Treadwells' home the summer Lisa vanished." Eli's jaw tensed. "You think he took her?" Calder didn't answer, but they both knew he didn't have to. They found Seiler 2 counties east, camped out near a reservoir. Calm, cooperative. He didn't ask about Lisa. Didn't even blink when they cuffed him. Just said, "I figured the dog would find her eventually." Eli sat across from him in the interview room, a tin cup of cold coffee in his hand. Seiler stared back, expression unreadable. Tired, detached. "Why the swing?" Eli asked quietly. "She liked it," Seiler said after a long pause. "When I took her, she cried the first day. But when I built the swing, she stopped. Would just sit there, back and forth, back and forth. Never said a word." "You built it for her?" Seiler looked up. "Didn't mean for her to die." Eli didn't respond. Didn't trust himself to. Seiler shrugged. "She got sick. Wouldn't eat. I buried her there 'cause it felt fair. She was happiest under that tree. You left her there for 20 years. I visited. Once a year. Every year." A faint smile twitched across his lips. "You just never saw me." The town came apart in quiet ways. Old wounds reopened. Families revisited pain they'd buried. Lisa's mother, now remarried, collapsed when the sheriff broke the news. Eli couldn't sleep. He kept seeing the swing, kept hearing it creak in the wind, kept thinking about how close they'd always been to the truth, and how blind they were to it. But what haunted him most was something Seiler said as they let him out in cuffs. "You always thought she was taken by a monster, but I loved her more than anyone ever did." Eli stared at him in silence, heart clenched like a fist, because he believed him, and that made everything worse. The swing was gone, taken in as evidence, dismantled piece by piece like it might confess something Seiler wouldn't. But the tree remained, sullen, dying, its bark hollowed with rot. The yard, once just another backyard in Coldridge Hollow, now had reporters camped outside it like buzzards. Eli didn't go back. Couldn't. He sat in his cruiser outside an old ranch house 10 miles out of town, where Lisa Treadwell's mother now lived with her new husband. He'd told himself he wasn't going to knock. He wasn't ready to see her face. Wasn't ready for what her eyes might ask of him. But the porch light flicked on. She opened the door like she'd known he was coming. "Deputy Mercer," she said softly. "You want to come in?" He nodded, hat in hand, the old wood creaking under his boots. Janine Treadwell hadn't changed much, not in the ways that counted. Her hair was silver now, pulled back into a bun. Her voice was tired but steady. Her eyes, those were the same, wide, sharp, and broken in the center, like glass at once and never repaired. She handed Eli a cup of tea and sat down across from him. "You were the first one to show up that day," she said, looking into her cup, "after Lisa disappeared. You handed me a bottle of water and asked what kind of backpack she had. I remember," Eli said, "I told you pink. You said your little sister had the same kind." Her voice caught. "Funny what sticks. I'm sorry it took this long." Janine looked up. "That man, did he hurt her?" Eli hesitated. "He says no. Says she got sick." "And you believe him?" "I don't want to, but yeah, I think I do." She stared at him for a long moment. Then she stood and walked to the hallway. When she came back, she was holding a weathered shoebox. "This was Lisa's," she said, setting it down. "I couldn't bring myself to throw it out." Inside were crayon drawings, old school pictures, a small Beanie Baby elephant, and a stack of friendship bracelets, just like the one they found on her wrist. Eli's finger stopped on a photograph beneath the toys. A birthday party. Lisa standing beside a tall man, smiling, eyes squinting, cake on her cheek. The man beside her wasn't her father. Who's this? Janine didn't look. That's Owen. Owen, Lisa's real dad, she said quietly. I never put him on the birth certificate. He wasn't around much. But when he was, she paused. She adored him, called him her secret dad. Eli's stomach went cold. She said, he brought her things I didn't allow. Candy, comic books. She said he was building her a treehouse. Her fingers trembled slightly as she closed the lid. After she disappeared, I told the police he was involved. He didn't even live in the state. Do you know where he is now? I haven't heard from him in 20 years. Eli stood. I need to find him. It didn't take long. Owen Weller had 3 DUIs on record, 2 in-state, 1 just over the border. Last known address was a trailer out in Stone Ridge, 20 minutes up a gravel switchback road and 5 miles past cell service. Eli took Rook and went alone. The trailer looked like it hadn't moved in years. Sagging porch. Chimney rusted through. There was a small coupe out back, empty now. A tarp-covered truck sat half-eaten by weeds in the drive. Rook sniffed the air and gave a low, cautious whine. Eli unholstered his weapon as he knocked. Silence. Then the faint shuffle of movement. Mr. Weller? Eli called. No answer. He circled to the side, boots crunching gravel and dead leaves. The back door was open. Inside, the place smelled like dust, old coffee, and a long ghost of cigarettes. There were photos on the wall, most faded, but one caught Eli's eye. Lisa again, younger, 5, maybe 6, on a swing. The same swing, same knots, same paint, same tree in the background. But this one wasn't Jacob Seiler's backyard. Owen finally emerged, thin, leather-skinned, eyes bloodshot and wild. He held no weapon, just a trembling bottle of vodka and a crumpled Marlboro pack. You're late, he said hoarsely. Eli blinked. Excuse me? Owen staggered into a chair like the air had deflated from his bones. Been waiting 20 years for someone to knock on that door. Eli didn't sit. You were Lisa's father? Owen nodded slowly. Didn't win Father of the Year. Never tried to. But yeah, she was mine. Did you know Jacob Seiler? A pause. Yeah, Owen said. He worked with me a few summers. Wiring jobs. Old houses. We got drunk a lot. He was quiet. Weird, but not dangerous. Least I thought. Eli's voice sharpened. Why was your daughter buried under his swing? Owen's jaw worked like he wanted to bite something, but couldn't find his teeth. She wasn't his, he said finally. Not really. That bastard stole her. 20 minutes later, Owen spilled everything. He said he used to sneak Lisa away for weekends. Janine never knew. They'd fish behind the trailer, roast marshmallows, build rock forts in the creek. Then one day, Seiler showed up uninvited. Said he wanted to meet the angel Owen kept talking about. Lisa was shy at first, then warmed up. Seiler built her a swing in the clearing beside the trailer. Said she deserved something special. I didn't think much of it at first, Owen said, voice shaking. She liked him. He brought her toys. Then he started talking about how the world didn't deserve her, how her mom didn't understand her like he did. He wiped his face. I told him to stay the hell away. We got in a fight. That was the last time I saw either of them. You never reported it? Eli snapped. I was a drunk ex. No custody. No rights. I figured Janine had her and didn't want me around anymore. And you never wondered what happened when she vanished. I knew what happened, Owen whispered. I just couldn't prove it. And no one believed a drunk dropout who lived in a tin can. Eli stood silent, the weight of 2 decades settling like fog across his shoulders. The man who built the swing wasn't Jacob Seiler. It was Owen, but the man who buried Lisa beneath it. That had been Seiler. Eli left with more questions than he came with, but one burned hotter than the rest. Why did Seiler wait 20 years to let her be found? That night, Eli sat at his kitchen table, old case files scattered in front of him. He stared at a photo of the swing, one taken that afternoon, before evidence had bagged it all. His eyes caught something, a carving on the wood. LT plus O. Lisa Treadwell plus Owen. Not Siler, not anyone else. The swing was hers, built by her father, and Siler had taken it. Eli drove back to the jail. It was past midnight, but he didn't care. He demanded a second interview with Siler. The man looked up from the cot, unsurprised. You knew it was coming, Eli said coldly. You knew we'd find that it wasn't your swing, that you didn't build it. So why bury her there? Siler leaned forward, eyes gleaming with something dark. Because I wanted him to feel it. Eli froze. I didn't mean to kill her, Siler said. But when she died, I knew what I could do. I buried her under his tree, under his swing. So every time he looked at it, every time he came back to that spot, he'd wonder, he'd feel it, and he'd never tell anyone because he thought he'd be blamed. Eli stared at him, realization crashing down like a dropped brick. You buried her there to torture him. Siler smiled, and it worked. The county prosecutor called it a clean case. Siler was charged with unlawful abduction, desecration of a corpse, and second-degree murder. But Eli knew better. Nothing about it was clean. Everything about this case had roots in mud. It had started with a missing girl, buried beneath what she once loved. But the truth wasn't just buried. It was poisoned. And now that the surface had been scratched, more rot was seeping through. Rook had been quiet ever since that day at the swing set. No barking. No pacing. Just stillness. Like he'd taken on the weight of what he found and hadn't figured out how to put it down. Eli understood the feeling. Lisa Treadwell was finally laid to rest under her real name, with her bracelet on her wrist and her mother sobbing into a scarf that had once been Lisa's. The town showed up in silence. Dozens of people who had combed creeks, handed out flyers, and held out hope long past when they should have stopped. Owen didn't come. He watched from the edge of the tree line, alone, unshaven, shoulders hunched under guilt too old to cry over. Eli stood beside him without saying a word. Owen didn't look over. It should have been me under that tree. Eli nodded. Maybe. Then he walked away. A week later, something strange happened. A woman from out of town, schoolteacher passing through, filed a trespassing complaint. She said she found a man camping behind her grandfather's property just outside Granger's Bluff. Said the man kept muttering about a second swing. Eli drove up with Rook the next morning. It wasn't much, just a flat patch of land and a dried-out creek. But Rook perked up fast, tail rigid, nose twitching. Then he ran, straight into the trees, and froze again, like he'd found something. Eli followed, boots crunching dead pine needles, sweat soaking into his collar. There it was, another swing, same style, same knots. But this one hung from a skeletal tree stripped of bark, gray and brittle, like it had been dead for years. A wind whispered through the grove, though the air around Eli felt still. He crouched beside the base. No fresh dirt, no disturbed roots. But something caught his eye, a sliver was nailed into the tree's trunk, half rotted and overgrown with moss. He brushed it clean, etched in shaky carving. Forgive me. Back at the station, Eli dug into old missing persons reports from neighboring counties. Girls, children, runaways, anyone who might have fit the age or pattern. Then 2 names came up. Amber Doyle, 2001. Maria Pelton, 1998. Both vanished within 30 miles of Cold Ridge Hollow. Both cases unsolved. Both, coincidentally, during the years Siler and Owen were working wiring jobs up and down the valley. Eli pulled their employment logs. 2 towns matched the names. He stared at the files, a chill spreading through his chest like frostbite. He picked up the phone and called the sheriff. We're not done. 3 weeks passed. No new discoveries. No more buried swings. No evidence tying Siler or Owen definitively to the other girls. But then Siler made a mistake. From jail, he sent a letter. It was addressed to Lisa, postmarked, dated. Inside was a single sentence. I kept them safe like I kept you. And at the bottom, a drawing, childlike. 3 swings in a row. Eli slammed the folder shut. 3 swings. 3 girls. 3 graves. They'd only found one. Eli returned to the original property one last time. He stepped into the backyard where grass still refused to grow, where the wind seemed to slow as it passed the stump where the swing had once hung. Rook didn't move at first. He just sat beside Eli, silent as ever. Then he turned and walked toward the edge of the yard, toward a cluster of trees pressed close like they were keeping something hidden. And he dug. It didn't take long. Another tarp, another shallow grave. But this time it wasn't a child. It was a box. Inside, perfectly preserved in plastic wrap, were dozens of items, clippings, hairbrushes, photos, ribbons, and a diary, childlike handwriting. It wasn't Lisa's. It was Amber Doyle's, and it was dated 6 months after her disappearance, which meant she'd still been alive, after everyone thought she was gone. Eli sat in the dirt, the wind rustling over him like breath on the back of his neck. Someone had kept these things. Someone who wanted them found. But not Siler. The letter hadn't mentioned Amber. Or Maria. Only Lisa. Eli stared at the diary cover. Faintly pressed into the back, barely visible now, was a crude drawing of a badge. A child sketch of a sheriff's star. The implication sank like a stone into his gut. He stood up, slow. Rook growled softly, not at the box, but at the house behind them, at the old Siler place. But not Siler's house, the one next door. Deputy Cam had grown up next door to Siler. He still lived there, took care of his mother, worked double shifts, said little, drank less. Reliable, predictable, always the first on scene, always the last to leave. Except Cam had been the first on scene when Siler went missing. He'd been alone with the house, with the backyard, with the swing. He would have known what lay under it. And he said nothing. That night, Eli pulled Cam's old personnel records. It was subtle but damning. Cam had spent the summer of 2001 working for county parks, clearing brush behind Granger's Bluff, where Amber had disappeared. His prints were never taken, but his boot pattern matched the tread found near the second swing, and the plastic wrap around Amber's belongings, used only in evidence rooms. Eli confronted him alone. No backup, just Rook. Cam didn't deny it. Just leaned against the porch rail and lit a cigarette, eyes scanning the trees like he was already halfway gone. You always thought Siler was a monster, Cam said. I still do, Eli said quietly. But I think you were watching. Cam exhaled smoke. I wanted to be a hero, he said, but they never picked me, never trusted me with the hard stuff, just handed it to you, so I started keeping my own cases. You let those girls die. I didn't kill Lisa, he snapped. That was Siler. But you knew. Cam looked at him, the calm fading. I heard her crying through the woods. The night she vanished. I followed the sound. Saw him walking with her. I could have stopped him. Why didn't you? Cam didn't answer. But Eli saw it. The shame, the wanting. Cam had let it happen because in his twisted heart, he wanted to be needed, even if it meant standing still, even if it meant silence. They arrested him that night. He didn't resist, didn't speak another word, just stared at Rook as they cuffed him, then at Eli, and for the first time, he looked sorry. Weeks passed, then months. Lisa's grave was given a new headstone, carved with the 3 beads from her bracelet, the heart, the L, and the purple star. The swing tree was cut down at Janine's request. Its stump burned and buried. But Eli kept the seat, hung it in his barn. No rope, no fanfare, just a memory, a marker. That fall, he sat on the porch as the wind picked up and dust dropped into the trees. Rook lay at his feet, chin on his paws, watching the last of the day bleed away. Eli reached down and rested his hand on Rook's head. Good boy, he said softly, and for the first time in weeks, the dog wagged his tail. Slow, steady, certain, like the weight had shifted. Not gone,